1. I used to live in a gated apartment complex that was built on a hill. I had to walk up 0.3 kilometers up my block, and then up 5 floors as the apartment blocks had no elevators. Parking was limited, and the only way to get them was to apply for them 1 year in advance, and then paying a lump sum full year for a parking permit and spot at the very beginning of the calendar year. So for a first year living there, I had to park my car at the side of the public road outside of the complex gate, and then walk all the way up, often carrying my guitars and music equipment along, as I wouldn't keep them in the car overnight. My story began almost immediately after moving in, when I used a visitor's pass to drive up and unload some bulky furniture. The pass allowed me to a limited parking space, which was thankfully near my apartment. However, as I was done unloading and was leaving, I found my car boxed in by another vehicle that had parked perpendicularly in front of mine. I couldn't leave as no contact info was left, and there were cars on either side of me. I was in a legitimate visitor's parking spot with a valid pass, and I was frustrated as I didn't know why I was boxed in. It didn't help that I had an important appointment to go to after, and time was running out. Reporting the issue to the security post downhill would also mean having to walk all the way back uphill, so I did what a frustrated driver would do and blasted my horn a good 5 times. Nobody appeared for some time, and I was just about to start the walk down when a lady appeared and started scolding me for taking her parking spot. I didn't say anything as I was confused, and she just kept yelling and accusing me of inconveniencing her. I tried telling her that I was parked in a visitor's spot, but she just kept going on. In the end, she ordered me to move my car and never park there again. She got into her car and moved away for me to get out. I was intimidated by her, so I didn't retaliate, but I knew what I wanted to do over the next few days. Apparently, she had illegally duplicated her pass, which was just a car sticker, by photocopying it, and used it for her 2 cars, one legal spot and the fake in the visitor's spot. Within a few hours, I found out which block she lived, the spot she legitimately rents, and which cars she used. By the end of that week, I submitted my parking application and waited out the whole year. Come January 2nd, I was the first in line in the management building, and paid the full year's rental for my parking spot. The parking spot I chose? That bitch's parking spot. I was issued the parking permit on the spot. I next submitted an official-ish complaint of the woman's parking scam, with full photos of the lady's cars, the fake sticker, and her apartment unit number. Management apparently knew who she was. Best part, she walked into the office to pay for her parking spot as I was leaving. I merely smiled at her in passing. I repeated my actions again and used that parking spot for 2 full years before moving out. As for the lady, she got a crap parking spot further away downhill. Makes me smile to this day. 2. So I was a temp, doing office jobs in the hopes of getting hired. My agency sent me to a brokerage firm in a higher-end area of town. Think Mercedes-Benzes and Porsches in the driveways. Anyway, I was a receptionist. My boss was a nice enough person, and she was very busy with tons of meetings and incoming calls. Early on in my stint there, I would regularly get a call each day by a woman from a number I did not recognize. It went like this. "Hello, how can I help you?"
"Get me your boss on the phone now!"
I'm flustered and panicking. I'm sorry, she's in a meeting."
"I don't care if she's in a meeting. Get her on the phone now!"
Me having a full-on anxiety attack, I'll see what I can do. I check on my boss, and she's in a conference with people, lots of suits and lots of papers on the meeting table. I return to the phone. I'm sorry, she's still meeting with...
"I don't care. Now get her on the phone now."
May I take a message and tell her who called?
"No, you may not take a message or tell her who called. Get her on the phone now."
I would then interrupt my boss's meeting in a full-on panic mode, tell her about the insistent irate caller, and she would pause the meeting and take the call. After having these experiences a few times, the boss would tell me, "That's just Lynn, an office manager from a nearby branch. The next time she calls, just take a message." Only I didn't recognize Lynn's number. The screaming would continue and my interrupting my boss's meetings. I told her about how irate the screamer was, and my boss would continue to go, "Next time, just take a message," and write it off. After seeing my boss's workload, I could not blame her, plus I wanted to be a good worker, and put up with the stress because that's what good workers did, right? When Lynn finally did come in person, she was the exact opposite of her phone persona. She dressed in muted colors, kept her head down, would not make eye contact with me or say hi, spoke in low tones, and seemed very reserved with other people in the office. This puzzled me because when I connected the dots later that she was the person who was loud, irate, and rude towards me on the phone, I could not figure out why she refused to interact with me in person, or why she directed this anger at me on the phone. So, after 3 weeks of my having to call Lynn's office every other day, and sometimes directly dialing Lynn and hearing Lynn talk, I matched Lynn's voice with her direct number. Now I know who was screaming at me. Only I didn't let Lynn know that I knew who she was and that I knew her direct line now. When it came to Lynn, I continued "I'm sorry, I'm just a temp. With whom am I speaking?" front whenever I called. So one day, towards the end of my stint, I received yet another Lynn call, and this time I was ready. "Hello, how can I help you?"
Get me your boss on the phone now.
"She's in a meeting right now, would you?"
I don't care if she's in a meeting. Get her on the phone now.
"She asked me to take messages. May I ask who you are?"
No, you may not ask who I am. Put her on the phone already.
"And may I ask the reason for your call?"
No, put her on the phone and quit wasting my time.
"May I have a number for her to call you back?"
No, I said put her on the phone.
Me savoring the moment as I dropped the bomb. "So, Lynn, you want me to interrupt my boss's meeting? And when she asks why, I have to tell her that Lynn wouldn't give me a callback number, the reason why she's calling, and she didn't want to leave a message. Is that what I will have to tell her, Lynn?"
No.
Complete 180-degree change in voice and demeanor from Lynn. "Shall I leave the boss a message and tell her to call you, Lynn?"
Yeah.
"Very good, Lynn." Cue me hanging up the phone. Boom, bomb dropped, target demolished. The rest of my stint finished with Lynn being at least cordial to me on the phone, and no more shouting. 3. This happened a few months ago in winter. I was waiting at my college bus stop. I am one of the first to get there, and I am at what should be the front of the line, but unfortunately, as the other Friday-only course kids crowded around, I was basically in the dead center of a perfumed, sweaty mosh pit. The issue is I have dyspraxia, Tourette's syndrome, autism, and ADHD. Dyspraxia messes up my balance and coordination. Tourette's syndrome makes me jerk, tense, and flex my limbs uncontrollably. My autism makes me have severe sensory issues to do with sound, touch, and smell. And my ADHD means I need to stim. Basically, a variety of actions which calm me down, in order to not have a full-on mental breakdown. All these combined made me very tense, stressed, and pained, because when my muscles tense for long enough while standing in the same place, they get really sore and sometimes even cramp. But I can't sit down on the bus stop bench because of the crowd, so I'm stuck there. Also, it's Scottish winter, so, freezing and wet, so the chill goes straight to your bones. When the bus eventually comes, I start asking the people who have cut in front of me if I can get through, because I'm disabled, but they all ignore me. One girl was actually behind me in the crowd, but somehow managed to sandwich past me to get in front, forcing me into an even tighter space, just so she could get a seat on the bus. This royally annoyed me. So when I eventually got on the bus, it was at neat maximum capacity. I saw the girl who pushed me, sitting leisurely in a disabled seat. Now, you don't have to be disabled to sit in the disabled seats, but people with disabilities do have priority. My standing issues I've already discussed, combined with my dyspraxic balance issues, makes it so I absolutely need to sit down or I will dangle round the bar like a wind chime, my joints clicking a melody. So I go up to the girl and say, in my softest customer service voice, "Hi, I'm disabled. Is it okay if I have this seat?" For context, I'm goth and have a resting bitch face, which mechanically changed to a smile as I spoke. This may have been intimidating. She immediately got up and I sat down. It was still cramped, but I had a seat with enough legroom to stretch and relax them from the pain and cold. She forced her way onto the bus to become one of the first people on, to get the comfier disabled seats, only to lose her seat to the person she rushed past. I know teenagers are kinda scummy at times, and they grow to learn empathy, but I certainly hope this was a learning opportunity for her. Since then, I've just started waiting inside my campus to get a later, emptier bus, even if it makes me an hour later home, but I still look back at this and smile. I should probably mention she was sat on the aisle seat with her friend at the window. I took the aisle seat, which basically separated them and made them unable to talk without me hearing them. So they were silent, staring at each other. Then me, the whole 35-minute journey. 4. This happened the start of this year. My friends were getting into Apex Legends again, and I hadn't played since the game came out, namely because of a network bug which made it frustrating to play with friends. I got the game to try again. Hopefully my old issues would have been resolved and I could enjoy it, since I did think it was a good game. And when I logged in, I got a big shock because I had forgotten an event that happened. Years back in secondary school, I let an at-the-time best friend use my EA account to link to their PlayStation account, right? So both our PlayStation accounts were tied to the one EA. Fast forward a couple of years, I got emails that somebody had changed the password and email address on my EA account. It was a person I used to be friends with, and when I tried to claim it back, I couldn't properly communicate with support, as their support pages didn't work properly on iOS. But I didn't care enough to properly pursue getting my account back, as by that point I didn't actually play any EA games anymore. Another few years pass, up to this year, and when I loaded up Apex, it loaded me into his account, as EA had merged our two separate PS accounts into one profile which we could both play on. I wasn't standing for that, because they had the cringiest name ever, and also because I wanted to play on my account. So I got onto support again, through a new EA account I had to make, since I lost access to the old one, this time explaining the whole situation. I asked if they could merely unlink my PlayStation account from the old EA account and attach it to my new one. That was my goal. Well, support made me go through a few verification checks and such, making sure I owned the email of the new EA account, and also the original email of my old EA account before it was taken over. They disappeared for about 2 minutes and then came back to me. "We've sent you a link to change the password on your old EA account and have restored the email to your original email," giving me back control of the account, to which I was like, hell yeah. But it didn't stop there. Support asked me if there was anything else they could help me with, and I absolutely know the support operator had the biggest grin when I responded, "Could you please unlink the other PlayStation account from this EA one?" Because they instantly responded, yes, and sent me the big spiel on the consequences of unlinking the account, which included, "You will lose access to all items in progress in all your EA games." Bear in mind, this guy was like level 220-something, right? So I quite giggly at that point, because I was more than happy to start over, knowing the account was entirely mine, and all the progress would be mine. There's a big sentimental value to that. Well, I told them to go through with unlinking the account, and excited to use my new Apex account, I loaded up. My username there in front of me, but also I actually got to keep everything on that person's account, all their skins, all their champions, all their Apex coins, everything. So I got the absolute sweetest revenge by not only getting my account back, but also cucking them out of everything they worked for and getting to keep it all. I have since changed the account's email to my newer one, which I use for personal things, and also activated two-factor authentication to be extra sure. Hands down, one of the most satisfying things to ever happen to me. For some additional context and details about the story, when I first got an email that my details had been changed, the message of course includes a new email which my account was now linked to. So I emailed them asking to give me my account back. I would greatly appreciate if you didn't go changing my account details and instead made your own account. Thanks. Can you please change the account back to my email? And their response was, "I'm currently trying to unlink the account. Apex gave me a thing about expiry of details, so I put in my email because your account was linked to my PSN from way back when. I'm trying to fix it. Sorry." They of course never restored my details after asking, and did not unlink the account, as they said they were trying to do. Instead, just kept keeping my account as their own. I should also mention that I used my EA account to log in with Origin, on which I had several purchases and games, therein losing access to them. Also, this was not a person I ever wanted to engage with anymore, due to the awful way in which they treated our other mutual friends, and the people they continued to hang out with during school after. The details of the drama I have admittedly forgotten, so you may take that with a grain of salt on whether you want to believe there was or wasn't. But what I absolutely do remember is them going on and continuing to be good friends with someone who had SA'd their partner at the time. 5. This happened in my old job, and I was reminded of it today. In my old job, we had a great boss and hybrid work. If we had any reason not to come to the office, just message to him, and an extra remote day would be approved. Then he was let go, and we got a new boss who was the exact opposite of her predecessor. This happened a few weeks after our old boss was let go, and his boss became our new boss. One morning, I wasn't feeling well, too sick to travel to the office, but not too sick to work from home. I had a couple of remote meetings with customers, so it was just easier for me to work while being a little sick than to reschedule. I spoke with my boss in Slack, and our conversation went like this. "Good morning, I have a sore throat and a slight fever. I'll be working from home today, so no need to reschedule anything. Our employer handbook clearly states that remote days are Tuesday and Thursday, and exceptions are pre-approved by the manager." I was angry. Is she really trying to force me into the office, even if I'm sick? Or what was her motive? But then it hit me. It doesn't matter, and our discussion continued. "Oh, sorry, that's true. I have a sore throat and a slight fever. I'm unable to come to the office, so I'm taking a sick day. Could you ask someone to reschedule the meetings with customer A and customer B, since I'm recovering at home, at least for today? The employer handbook states that I can take 3 sick days in a row without a doctor's note, but I'm willing to make an exception if you want to, and get you one. Do you want it?" I was left on red for 10 minutes. She started typing, deleted the text, started again, and deleted it again. She was active in our chat for an entire 10 minutes until I finally got a response. "No, that won't be necessary. I'll ask someone to reschedule those meetings. Get well soon." My colleagues almost died of laughter when I told them why I'm having a sick day and not just working from home. Our boss didn't like me after that, and the feeling was mutual. I left the company later for a new job, but not before she was fired. She was the commercial director last year before she joined the company. It made 606,000 euros profit. In her first year, 413,000 euros. Second year, 1,000 euros. And she was fired at the end of the third. Numbers aren't public yet, but they are similar to the last year. If they somehow managed to stay profitable at all. She had previous experience from companies over 20 times bigger than that, and she was hired to help the company grow to the next level. Unfortunately, her skills were just to implement heavy processes and stiff organization model. Her commercial development had even people working under her, and there were 4 sub-departments: sales, productization, account management, and marketing. 4 in sales, 2 in productization, and 1 in account management and marketing was handled by an outside contractor. We had 26 employees in total. We in sales were completely in new business, and after we had a signed agreement, account management took the contact role. Our former boss was head of sales, and he suggested that salesperson could be the contact for the first year, or even handle possible upselling, selling more to the current customer. But the commercial director didn't even let him finish before saying no. So the company lost a lot of money when not doing the upsell. It's pretty common that companies start with a small deal with a new software and expand the use step by step. For some reason, this wasn't an option if the customer didn't specifically ask us to provide more licenses. She was there before I was, but during my time she focused on standardizing the sales process, which led to us losing the sales and bringing in less money. For example, We couldn't modify text in proposals for the customers without asking permission from productization, and even after that, only marketing would be allowed to make changes. And this was even in substitutions where the customer didn't want some feature our product had. We couldn't even remove the text about it. I once counted that my proposal included 11 features, and 9 of them were completely irrelevant to the customer. 2 of them were something that the customer had explicitly stated they didn't want. This was a software, so it had some features customers didn't use, but they didn't affect the pricing, so it didn't matter. It led to situations where we heard from customers that we focused on completely unrelated things, not those which were relevant to the customer, and their board chose another vendor. Even if the internal champion believed we were much better, which we said would happen before this new model was implemented. Some other standardizations led to the situations where owners asked something for us to do something, and we had to decline since we weren't allowed to do that. They respected her role, even when they didn't agree with her decisions, but it's hard to believe that it didn't affect her termination. She cost about 2 million euros to the company, and that doesn't even include her salary. And on top of that, she turned the company culture into something the owners didn't like, so she was an expensive, difficult person and hard to work with. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Revenge is Ice Cream, episode 350. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and share the video with friends and family. And if you'd like to get early access to these videos, you can support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. Do that for as little as $1 or more a month, and you get all the videos on a Monday. Let's see, other business. Oh yes, you'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store in the description. And we also have a Discord if you'd like to join us over there. And if you really like today's video, you can leave a tip by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath the video. But you don't have to do any of that, although I do appreciate it and it is very helpful. Okay, let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day, and answer of the day, and today's question is: have you ever looked at an image of a person, an actor, a singer, whatever from the past and thought, damn, that guy had style, without knowing anything else about them? This one's pretty easy for me. It's an actor called Peter Wingard. Probably best known in the 70s, late 60s, for playing a character called Jason King. And he came to my attention through a series of books you've probably heard me talk about many times called Anno Dracula, whereas a version of the character Jason King, or a character very heavy, the lawyer-friendly version, shall we say, of a character based upon him was included in there. And he's described as looking the exact same way. And I looked him up and was, that guy's got style. I mean, he's very retro, very 70s, with the hair, the big mustache, and all the kind of like the shiny, silky outfits. But just looking at this man through his life, he hits. I think it's more a matter of what he's wearing I would look bad in, but he looks amazing at every stage of his life, right up until his later days. He was 90 years old when he passed. He just knocks it out of the park. And that's mine, kind of like a blast from the past. It's like that's just, you were perfect for every era, Peter, what can we say? Why don't you let me know what some of yours are in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this was in relation to, do you let Hot Pockets or similar kinds of foods cool? How do you approach eating them when you're very hungry and they're very hot? And today's answer comes from Tori Mansfield. I usually just tear it in half to let the steam and heat escape, then chow down. Quite right and straightforward too. Thank you for your answer, Tori. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.